Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Mike. In today's video we're going to be talking about pale girl friendly or pale guy friendly if you'd like eyeshadow palette. So I did a video like this a few months ago and that was very neutrally skewed I should say. And then someone said like, wouldn't it be fun to do this as well for colorful palettes? Because I would be very curious to know what colorful palettes you would recommend for pale skin people. So I can link that other video in the eye above for sure. And I've selected 10-ish kind of palettes that I think provide some really good colorful shades if you have a fair complexion. So if you are pale like me, one of the palettes we'll be talking about is what's on my eyes today. I've decided to go full on rainbow sweater for you. You can't really see the rest of the rainbow, but I can show you the sleeve here. Ooh, do you see? Do you just see? Ah, nice little rainbow sweater for the occasion. So let's talk colorful eyeshadow palettes, shall we? I will start you off by talking about what is on my eyes today. And this is a fairly new release. And it is a palette that when I discussed it in my new makeup releases, I said I wasn't going to get it yet. And then I think like even before I had edited that video and had uploaded it, I had already ordered it. So this came out, I think, early December or late November, I think. So this was a 2020 release, and this is the Viseart Violette Étendu palette. And first of all, the packaging is super cute. It's like this like plummy design, and then it folds open like this. It's one of those smaller Viseart palettes. And then this is what the color story looks like. I am wearing a lot of these like purples at the bottom today on my eyes, so that's what I went for, to go on all in purple. But as you can see, there's also quite a lot of neutrals in this palette. And what is really great about these neutrals, I find, is that they all have like a purpley mauvey undertone to them, making them go really perfectly with these purples. It's not a super duper light palette by any means. Oh, this thing is bothering me. So this palette isn't like the lightest palette on the market for sure, but you do get a lot of really good lighter shades. And I like that you also get some brighter options in here. The camera is not doing it justice, but oh, like that. Do you see that shade here in the middle? It has that blue to pinky shift, so I dabbed that a little bit in the center of the lid today just to amp up the brightness a little bit. And when I was looking at it in the pan, the shade right next to it looks like a bit of a bluish shade, but actually, again, I'm not sure if it picks up on it on camera. But this also has like this lavendery sort of duochrome to it. So you do get like a good amount of like actual purples, and then the 5 neutrals that you get in here all have this like plummy mauvey sort of undertone. So even though this looks like a rose gold shade, it has that sort of like grayish lavender to it, which I love. And as you can see, it just has quite a lot of light shades. Like if you take this out of the equation and this out of the equation, it's quite fair. This reads a lot darker on the viewfinder than it does in real life. In real life, this looks like a very vibrant royal purple, which is what I would say it does for me as well. I did use it in the crease today and the outer V, and this is one of those shades that if you sheer it out, it becomes a little lighter as well. So, but right now I think I paired it with this darker shade. So if you kind of blend them together, you can deepen things up. So yeah, this is a sort of the colorful palette for people who are a bit scared of color. I think that purple is a great color to start with if you are afraid of colors, because it is closer to a neutral than like a blue or a green, in my opinion. And this way you do get some neutrals to round out the look, and you can really just also go for a full-on purple look. Like that lavender shade, oh, and the quality of this is really good too. So this is a palette that I already knew I was going to get it. I just got it a lot more quickly than I thought. And I finally was able to try it out right on time for this video, you could say. So I could put it in here and recommend it. But yeah, this is a great neutral slash, like it's more colorful leaning than you might think at first. But it is more like the safe option, you could say. Another very safe option, I find the Nabla Soul Blooming palette. And this was the first palette I had to think of when I was brainstorming which palettes I could put in this video. look at that packaging. I just love it. And this is also what you get inside. You get some cool tones over here, neutrally cool tones over here, and this side skews a bit more warm toned, a bit more peachy rosy. And it does have colors, but again, it is really neutral too, because you get those peachy rose golds kind of shades over here. You get these like periwinkle lavendery kind of shades that aren't the most pigmented shades on the planet, especially like this duochrome over here in the middle. You really need to build it up if you want it to show up. But the way these things just play together, and we have a lavender, a matte lavender in the Étendu, but this has that matte periwinkle that I'm all about. I love a periwinkle shade. So yeah, this gives you a lot of options. Again, there are quite a few neutrals in here. For instance, this shade over here, this shade over here, that brown. But everything else in here does skew a little bit more colorful. And this is one of my favorite palettes for the springtime. It is really light because that's the only like sort of truly deep shade that you get. This is a darker shade, but it is more of a shimmer. And because it has that shine to it, it definitely doesn't translate as deep as it might look in the pan, I find. So that's something that I always look for. So yeah, this palette is for sure not that deep and therefore perfect for pale skin people, and perfect if you want to play around with color, but you don't want to go all out. I have one more if you don't want to go all out, but you do want to amp it up a little bit kind of palette. And this is a palette that I'm not sure if you can still get this. And this is a palette not a lot of people liked. I've seen so many people decluttering the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. And I don't get it, because in terms of like a colorful palette, I think this is the kind of colorful palette that can just give you lots of options. And I especially like a lot of the shimmer shades that you get in here. You don't get you only get like 1, 2, 3, like 4 actual like neutrals, and everything is colorful that goes on in here. You get, of course, that really bright pop of pink, a really nice pop of purple. But what I love about this palette is this shimmer right here called Mediterranean. It's like it's not a lavender. It's a purple, but it's a very blue tone purple. So it's very much more leaning towards a yeah, almost like an indigo. That's what it leans towards, but like a very grayish toned one. And then in here you also get Seaside, and that is quite possibly one of my favorite shimmers in my entire makeup collection. It looks like a gray in the pan, but it is a duochrome. It has that sort of, it has a grayish blue, and then it has this like goldeny rich flip to it. And I feel that that shade works so well with, for instance, that peachy shade and that mustardy shade that you get in here. I love a good turquoise. I did a full teal look just this past Tuesday. So a shade like Seychelles, you know I'm going to love. The only shades in here that I'm like, is really that like yellow tone gold. That's the only one. Yacht is a bronze, but again, it has a more unique undertone. And that's what I love about this palette. Again, it's a safe option. It gives you some neutrally looks. Like if you were to stick to the brown and to these neutrals here with that bronze and maybe a bit of that gold, you get a very neutrally look, so it's possible. But you can also go all out with the purples and the pinks and some of those turquoises. So what's not to love? I love this palette. Now moving on to the more daring color stories, and I try to not only select rainbow palettes, but I try to make sure that there were some other colorful options in here. So yeah, these are like neutral palettes, or like colorful palettes that have neutrals. They're not neutral palettes with colors. Those already mentioned in my other video. But rainbow palettes, of course, can be really nice. However, very often rainbow palettes can be very limiting in what they can offer you. And especially if you're fair-skinned, a rainbow palette isn't always perfect, because if they are too primary, for instance, in the Ace Beauté Slice of Paradise palette, it's a beautiful color story. It's a really good rainbow. And also in my Certified Tropical Wonders, I find it's a really good rainbow. But on my fair skin, those very primary-like rainbow colors don't always translate the best. So I like to go for rainbow palettes and colorful shades that are either brighter or, I wouldn't say muted down, but that have something else running through them that make them a little less like a primary red, like what I have going on in my sweater today. The palette that I would recommend if you're looking for a good colorful palette that has all the shades of the rainbow but that can still give you a lot of versatility, the palette I would recommend for a fair skinned person is the Slush palette by September Rose Cosmetics. This is the palette that I've used to create the look that's in my little icon. So that little eye that you see in the icon on my channel, I use this one. It is the kind of palette that it just has all the shades you need for that vibrant, colorful look. It has a gradient from very light to deeper shades, so you do get some almost like jewel tones in here, but then you also get these like really vibrant neon-like shades, and you get a couple of shimmers in here as well, which is what I like. So you do get a shimmery purple and a blue, you get this like dusty lilac kind of shade, you get a shimmering orange, and also in this and here you get some shimmer too in that orange, and then in the blue here you get some like, that's like more like a sequin shade, so it's a matte with shimmer. So I treat that like a matte. So it's mainly mattes, but what I really like about this, because you get that gradient and because it has these like brighter options, I feel it works really well against my complexion. Does this look very intimidating when you first look at it? For sure. But because you have a matte lavender, a very vibrant like Barbie pink with a blue undertone, I feel that this is also a colorful palette that skews quite cool toned rather than warm toned. So for instance, in this side, I'm looking at the wrong side of the palette, these like, it doesn't go into a full on red, it goes more into like a raspberry shade almost. So it's not that warm tone leading, like these oranges are really like the only warm tones you really get. So yeah, you get some really good shades in here, and I feel that it gives you a lot of options for very versatile, colorful looks. Very often what I did was that I sort of went across the spectrum, and then I very often ended up with this like sunrise, sunset kind of eye. That's what you can do with it, but of course you could stick to the monochrome columns and then you will just have like a really good purple look as well. So that's another option that you have here, but they also mix and match really well. So in terms of like ultimate favorite, super colorful eyeshadow palette, look into the September Rose Slush palette. This is a UK indie brand, and they are a Black owned makeup brand as well. I rate this palette very, very highly for what it brings me. And another sort of like rainbowy palette that I think is really good for fair skin is the Zulu by Juvia's Place. So this palette is, again, it's got neutrals. It does have a neutral brown, and also this peach I feel is a neutral. This peach with a gold flip is life. It's like one of my, it's my favorite shade in this entire palette. And I usually don't like peaches or golds, but there's just something about this. If you put it all over the lid, it's stunning. You get a turquoise in here, so you know what time it is, because that shimmering turquoise is lovely. You get a shimmering green in here, and everything else is matte. The purple in here needs a little bit of building up. This is more like a pinky shade as well, so again, it skews quite cool toned. But what's so lovely about this is that if you use some of these warmer tones together with the pink or the purple, they do still go together. So I feel that the undertones just match up really well, and I don't feel there is really a disconnect between them, because this yellow can go quite nicely with this like turquoisey green shade for sure. You can make a full-on neutral look if you put the yellow in the crease, maybe mixing it in with a bit of the orange, putting the brown in the outer V, and putting the peach all over the lid. So again, you get a lot of options even though it's only £9, and this is of course super affordable too. I love me a good Juvia's Place palette, and this is one of my favorite ones for like full-on bright, colorful rainbow looks. And the final palette that is truly like a rainbowy kind of palette is the Sugarpill Funsize palette. And the reason why I want to recommend this one, if you have pale skin, is because this, again, like the September Rose Cosmetics palette, it has a bit of a rainbow going on, but these shades are almost like neons, and then these shades are more like pastels. The only thing I don't like about this palette is that these two pinks in the middle are very similar, but you should know that one of them skews a bit more purpley and a bit more cool toned, whereas the other one skews a bit more red and is therefore a bit more warm toned. So you do get sort of like some shades that go together. So these shades all go together really well, and then those 4 shades go together really well. And this is sort of like my Easter egg kind of palette. This is a palette that has pastels but also neon, so in terms of like really bright colorful shades, again, I just feel it works really well if you have a fair complexion. Some people didn't like this palette because they felt it didn't work very well. I always double prime my lids, I always put on a paint pot and then set that down with an eyeshadow, and I feel that that system just makes these shades work really well. These swatch horribly. They're really, really terrible in a swatch, but with brushes and building them up, you can really easily make these palettes work. I'm really happy with my little fun size palette. This is just such a fun, bright, colorful option. But we also have some bright, fun, colorful palettes that are perfect for pale skin that are not necessarily rainbow palettes, because you don't need to buy a rainbow palette. If you feel like, I just like blues, then just buy yourself a blue palette. So I do have some options here as well. And for that, my favorite would be the Feral palette by Menagerie. Menagerie Cosmetics has a stunning matte formula. They are a little bit pricey to get if you're in Europe, but I feel these are worth it. I am definitely sort of like hanging in there for that restock that's going to happen tomorrow because, oh, yes. I'm going to be buying up all the palettes that I'm still lusting after, because they had closed down their shop and they've brought back some international shipping options, they say. So I'm super happy for that. So yeah, the Feral palette is life. And why is it life? First of all, packaging. And all of the shades that you see in this packaging are shades that you get in the palette. So I just love how cohesive that is. That's just lovely. And again, you get some neutrals in here. So again, you have the possibility to do a full-on neutral look, but then that teal. I do have to say that I bought this later, so they revamped this palette. There were initially 2 other like neutrally kind of shades in here, I believe, and they sort of updated this palette to make it a bit more unique. And then you have these pinks and purples and this red and then the yellow and then these greens. This green. I never swatch in these kind of videos, but because I've got reviews for most of these already up, so I will link those in the description box down below so you can look at swatches and looks that I did with it. But oh, one swipe, no more, no less. How stunning is that? So you get a couple of really good like shade selections in here. You can put the neutrals with the greens, you can add a pop of yellow, you can add a pop of purple, pop of pink, but also the colorful shades again work together really well. So this is just lovely. I liked every single look I did with this, and again, it doesn't go super deep either. Like this green is the deepest you get, so if you want to go a bit smokier, then the green look is probably the best bet if you own this palette. And another palette that doesn't skew very deep is the Certifeye Affinity 2. I just recently reviewed this over on my blog, and one of the critiques I had actually was that it was too bright. I prefer my colorful shades to also have a little bit of depth. I am someone who now feels more comfortable using darker shades, and even though it seems like you get a really deep navy and a really deep forest green in here, I found that they don't really translate that deep once you blend them out. So once you start using this palette, I feel these shades are super duper vibrant. You get a really, really stunning like curated blue look in here and a really stunning curated green look as well. However, I feel that there are some different undertones going on in the blues and the greens that doesn't allow you to really mix and match the blues and the greens together. So for me, this probably would have been better if they had released this as 2 9-pans and said, here's a green palette and here's a blue palette, because some of these shades they just don't really mix very well. That's my only critique, really. You get 2 really stunning duochromes in here. Well, 3 actually, because the white is also a duochrome. It's got a blue flip. And then you just get some really stunning, really bright, vibrant shades. So if you are someone who really loves color and you have pale skin and you really like that very vibrant, bright blue or green look, Certifeye Affinity 2. And then another no rainbow palette, but still a lovely one, is the Juvia's Place, the Magic palette. I think that if you want to go for colors that are very wearable, but it's not a rainbow color story, then the Magic just has you covered. It's not that neutral, really, especially not if you look at these cool tone shades, because you really only get like this is the only true brown that you get in the entire palette. And then you have this beige shade and you have this like taupey champagne. So you just have like a red shade, a reddish tone brown, a yellow tone gold, this pink, and then you get 8 really beautiful, stunning, colorful cool tone shade with a navy, like you've got some blue options in here, some green options in here, and then you get some purple options in here as well. This teal, life. I love these 2 purples here. It's a really good colorful color story. I have the large one, which if I had to repurchase it, I would definitely go for the mini one. So I'm still contemplating, like, should it downgrade to the mini and repurchase this palette for that reason. I'm still contemplating doing that, because this is just a little bit big for my taste. But yeah, it's such a great, really lovely, colorful color story. And if you have fair skin and you have that cool undertone, I don't think everybody with fair skin necessarily has a cool undertone, of course, but if you do, if you're like me and you have that, and you want some really good, colorful, cool tone shadows, then these are lovely. And now we're moving on to the final 2 palettes in this video. And both of these come with a disclaimer. And I will just show you the first one first. So the first one that comes with a disclaimer that I did want to put into the video, but I haven't used it yet, so I'm not entirely sure how perfect it's going to be. However, I bought this because I think it's going to be a perfect, colorful palette for pale people. And it's the Norvina 4. Right? Yes, the ABH Norvina Collection Pro Pigment Palette Volume 4. This is the one that I don't see a lot of people having in their collection. This was released a little bit later from the other 3, and I think that's why like people were just over Anastasia by the time this was released, and I think a lot of people were like, another one of these? I don't know. But of the 4, like the other 3 are gorgeous palettes, but they look really dark. This doesn't. This is like like I don't really own a lot of like pink and purpley toned palettes, but this is the option I thought could work like that for me. You get some really good bright pinks in here. I'm really interested in this shade here because it seems to be like the perfect blend between a purple and a pink. You get a lavender in here. You get some cool tone neutrals. Love it. And then you just have this interesting pop of bright yellow. You get a really good like rosy tone shimmer. The only thing that makes me nervous about this palette is that it has pressed glitters. And the only ones that the brand says are pressed glitters are these 2. But you also get these chunkier shimmers over here in the corner, and they feel very gritty. But the brand doesn't call them pressed glitters, but I still put them over a glitter glue just to be safe. And I feel they don't really pick up very well with a brush. So, yeah, this just has a couple of really good, a little bit of neutrally stuff going on, but then also a lot of like brighter, really fun shades. I still have to play with it, and because it's so big, I know I won't be getting around to this anytime soon, because if you saw my Black Friday haul, I'll link it in the eye above. There was a lot there, so I'm still sort of like carefully making my way through it. But yeah, hopefully by the end of spring I will have tried this one, and I will be updating you in a 10 palette review. Now the final palette I wanted to mention in this video is a palette by a brand that I said I wasn't going to mention anymore. And that's the thing, if you make those kind of promises, you put yourself in a bit of a tight spot, because I do not support Jeffree Star as a human being. Like, I don't like him as a person, but he does make a couple of really good makeup products, or his brand does, I should say. And the Jawbreaker palette is one of those palettes where I'm like, if there is a really good colorful eyeshadow palette on the market today, that just does so much and that is really good if you are fair, it would be this one. And like, I'm not saying go out and buy this. I'm not. But I just really appreciate the color selection that's in here. I already owned this, so I was like, I'm gonna throw it in here. The only shade I wish wasn't in here is this brown. I wish that was a matte purple, which is why I also own the mini breaker, because that matte purple that goes perfectly with these shades is in that, which is what Jeffree Star tends to do. He doesn't put all of the shades that you want in the palette so that you buy 2 of them. Really great marketing tactic. But why do I like this palette so much? You get some like pastely, neon-y brights in the top half, and then these really gorgeous, like richer colors in the bottom half, and that's what I like. Plus, again, one thing I always miss in colorful palettes are good colorful shimmers, and this palette has a really stunning pink option, and you get this really cool yellowy shade, a good shimmering purple. This orange is really interesting, so it gives you a couple of really good shimmer options as well, and then it does give you like 2 neutrals to kind of play with it. I really like the navy that's in here. So this has some really stunning shades, which is why I wanted to show it in this video. However, I've also shown you 10 other palettes that I think have similar things going on to this. So you definitely don't need this, I think. But I still, like, it is in my collection. I really like it for those bright options. That's why I bought it. That's why I decided to keep this around. So if I think it's that nice for a colorful option, then why not mention it in this video? So thank you very much for watching this video today. I hope you found it helpful. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite colorful palette is, even if you have a darker skin tone. I love trying new eyeshadow palettes. You guys know that about me. So I don't need more eyeshadow palettes, but I always like to try more, so yeah. So please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 3 new videos a week, so I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!